Welcome to this episode of Better Life Today. I'm so happy that you have joined us. And I'm also happy to be joined by Pastor Daniel and Leva Trethewey. You have been with us for, my goodness, 5 or 6 months now? All right, and Pastor Daniel you're pastoring the Grants Pass Church and the Cave Junction Church.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, well, welcome. I've enjoyed getting to know both of you, and I'm very excited to be able to introduce you to our viewers. It's always fun to meet new people and to just find out what the story is behind. You know, God works in all of our lives and brings us to different points. So welcome to this program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of an odd thing. You're used to being up on a platform and talking, but sometimes, you know, I remember the first time I was looking at a camera, and it's a whole different thing. So God puts you in interesting situations sometimes, huh?
Yeah, it's just not something I'll ever get fully used to, but more used to.
All right. Well, tell me, what brought you to Grants Pass, and where were you before you moved here?
Well, yeah, God brought us here. I mean, we were in Walla Walla, Washington, where I grew up, and I was going to school there also at Walla Walla University, and we were about to graduate, me and my 4 classmates who were graduating from theology. And yeah, I think it was like February or March, I got a call from the Oregon Conference, and we didn't know exactly where we were going yet, somewhere in Oregon, you know. But then after a few months, we found out we were coming here, and we were really happy to see what's down here.
Right. So you were born and raised in Walla Walla, is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I wasn't born in Walla Walla, but moved there when I was 3 or 4.
Okay. And do you have siblings there? Is your family still there in Walla Walla?
Yeah, my parents are still there. My brother, I have an older brother. They're all still there. Yep.
And what was that like? I mean, you've been in this community. You were there throughout. I mean, did you go back? I know a lot of pastors work their way back to Andrews at some point, and maybe that's still in your future. Have you basically all of your education happened in the Walla Walla Valley?
Yeah, you know, I was really fortunate. I went to Christian Adventist schools, like from kindergarten all the way to high school and college too, you know, so that was a good experience and everything. And yeah, as far as seminary is concerned, I think that the plan is for me to go there after 2 or 3 years. So looking forward to that.
Right.
It's not going to be quite like Washington. It'll be Michigan, but that's okay.
Right.
Never been there, but I hear it's
my
cold.
my wife would give it a good recommendation.
Yeah.
She went to Andrews University.
Oh,
so,
good.
Well, very good. So you were born and raised then a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yep.
So your whole life, this has been your reality.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And Leva, you met there in Walla Walla, is that correct?
We met in Wildwood in state of Georgia and Tennessee. We went there to school, to health evangelism training school.
Okay.
So that's where I came when I first came to America. And when I arrived there in 2012, on 10th of December, Daniel was already there. He had come all the way across the United States from Walla Walla to Wildwood, also to take a training in health evangelism.
So it wasn't just to meet you. He was there for another reason as well.
Yeah,
Right.
I think there was a bigger reason at first. It was God's call for him there, but you never know when you follow God's call what other doors he will open and what other miracles he will do.
That's right, absolutely.
Right.
So what drew you to evangelism? What pulled you to Georgia?
Yeah, a lot of things. I was really getting into like trying to be healthy. You know, I wanted to be I wanted to feel better, have a clear mind, be more healthy. You know, so I was doing a lot of things to try to eat a more healthy diet, eat healthier foods. You know, so I was really into that, and I wanted to do something to share, the health message and the gospel with other people. You know, so yeah, I prayed about it and felt a really strong call to go down there and learn more.
Were you already at that point thinking about or planning on being a pastor? Had you already felt that call?
No, I just knew I wanted to learn more about health evangelism. But yeah, I never thought I didn't want to be a pastor, because I never thought that I could be a pastor. It just didn't really cross my mind as as a real possibility. I just thought I wasn't really that kind of person, you know. I don't fit into this stereotypical mold of a pastor that some people might have.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I mean, I know everyone has a different idea, but I'm sure a lot of people probably think that like a pastor has to be very like extroverted and super friendly, you know, bubbly personality. I don't know. I mean, whatever it wasn't too clear in my mind, but I didn't think I fit it.
Right. And when did that start to shift in your thinking?
Well, yeah, it's a long story, but kind of. But yeah, when we were there at Wildwood, you know, we had finished some short courses, and I was working on a vegetable farm, and I enjoyed that a lot. But then I realized I need to do something different. I'm kind of stagnating in this, like, I need to learn more. So we decided to move, and I was thinking about what to do next, because I didn't think I wanted to be a farmer. That was just a hard lifestyle, you know, even though I loved the plants and everything. So I was praying about what to do next. We were praying, and I was thinking about becoming an auto mechanic because I wanted to do something, you know, with my hands. I thought, you know, that's a really practical thing to do, and I think maybe it would be good. But then I realized it was a really bad fit for me because I'm not even a technical person. I wouldn't be good at that. But I thought, well, I just had to become good at it because it seems like a good option. So then I prayed, and I thought, well, maybe I can become a Bible teacher because I always liked the idea of teaching, and I like, you know, the Bible. I wanted to do something for eternity, something meaningful, you know, impact people's lives. I enjoyed helping the plants grow, but then I wanted like to help grow people, you know. So yeah, that was kind of my stepping stone, thinking, well, maybe I can be a teacher. But then once I got to, you know, school, started studying theology, I realized that maybe God's calling me to be a pastor. So that kind of happened gradually throughout studying theology.
Right. As you speak, it makes me think about the calling to the disciples. You know, you have these fishermen, you have these people that have this plan, and God says, no, I have something else. The things you've been doing have trained you, and we're going to use those. And you look at each of the disciples, they didn't fit any prototypical mold for what a disciple would be, somebody, not just a teacher and whatnot. These were, you know, fishermen and tax collectors and all these things. So I love hearing these stories because it's how he works, right? He calls us and he equips us. So thank you for sharing that. And you were there as well. What were you there to learn?
That's a good question. I was there to go in God's school, I think, because I didn't kind of choose to come there. So I think God brought me to America. So after graduating from my degree in Latvia, I was kind of maybe a little bit burned out, and I went to Norway as a student missionary for a year.
Okay.
And I met there, you know, a lot of people. And one of the person I met was Sarah, and she's from Ethiopia. A very sweet girl, and we became friends. But I was, you know, I'm very stubborn, so I said, no, God, only 1 year, and then I'm going back to my country and working for my people. So stubbornly, after 1 year being in Norway, I came back to Latvia. And then I received a call from Sarah, and she said, Liva, what do you think about medical missionary work? And I said, oh, I'm sure it's not for me. And
That's a dangerous
I
thing
guess
to say,
that's
isn't
how
it?
it always is, right? I'm sure it's not for me, or I'm never say never. So I said, I'm sure it's not for me because I always saw myself more in educational field than in medical field. And second reason why I said that is because I was ignorant what medical missionary work is. I think I was very narrow-minded. I connected it directly with medical field and everything, and so I had no idea what it is. Of course, I was not so deep in spirit of prophecy to understand that. And so she said, why don't you pray about it? And not always I pray about things that people want me to pray about, but I trusted Sarah's relationship with God, and I knew that she just doesn't suggest things because she wants to suggest what you need to do in your life, but she had some deeper insight in it. So I did pray and think about that, and I think after 4 months I was in Wildwood. So God opened every single door for me to be there, and they even gave me a visa for 1 year in embassy. And usually it's pretty hard, you know, it's hard to get visa to come to America.
Right.
And usually they would give you first for 6 months and then maybe extend it to a year. And they did give me a year because I went there as a work scholarship student first to work for my tuition. And yeah, so shortly, I think God had some lessons that I didn't learn on that side of ocean.
Right.
Lesson of patience, lesson of submission, lesson of being silent, being still, and waiting on Him. I think those were some of the things that my character needed to learn, and is still learning, and will forever be learning. And
Yeah,
that's why
amen.
God brought me, I think, to Wildwood, to learn in the school of service and ministry all these lessons.
So when you arrived at Wildwood, what did that look like? What were you doing there?
So first, I was working in a diet kitchen. Wildwood Lifestyle Center has a lifestyle center program for about 30 guests they can accept for 11-day program. So I was working there in a lifestyle center kitchen. That was the first placement where I was put as a work scholarship student. And my boss was Italian, Portuguese. She was from Brazil, or Italian Brazilian. So I was kind of like her sous chef. So there was a lot of lessons I learned from her, and growing in that team and working in that team and working with patients also. You know, they come from different backgrounds with different diseases, and we serve them breakfast, lunch, and supper, and all that environment. Yeah, so that was first place. I also worked in hydrotherapy department afterwards, and I worked in personnel office as a secretary as well. But my first placement was in diet kitchen.
Right. And
Yep.
Sarah was there? She had invited you to come join her, or did she just know about
No,
this?
Sarah was still in Norway.
okay.
Yeah, we just Madison Mission School, that's in Norway. They had some people that are connected with Wildwood, and
I see.
yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how you were brought together and met, and then how God has carried you forward and led you into where you are now, and maybe a little bit about the future as well. So we'll be back right after this.
Better Life Broadcasting is a viewer-supported Christian media ministry that offers streaming programming via apps on various devices. Please visit blbn.org to support Better Life or to get more information. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back. I am just so pleased to be joined by Pastor Daniel and Leva Trethewey, and we are just talking about how God leads each of us forward in life. And right before the break, we were talking about how God had brought you both to Wildwood, but you hadn't met yet. And obviously you did, because you're sitting here together with me, and for which I'm very grateful. But I'm really curious, as we're learning about this story, what brought you together? How did God work that out? I mean, you have a young lady from Latvia, and you were from Walla Walla, Washington. Not two names that you probably hear in the same sentence very often. So how did God make that happen between you guys?
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, because I kind of made a fool out of myself a lot of times. Because I had met her, and I was really wanting to get to know her more. So I saw her in the cafeteria and would try to go sit next to her. But then when I got next to her, I didn't know what to say. I kind of froze up. And it was just really awkward and uncomfortable. But yeah, God worked it out anyways.
Right. Boy, it takes me right back to college. I very clearly remember those years. But you saw something, Leva. You saw something in Daniel, and not just his nice full red hair. You saw his character. So tell me about meeting him for the first time and what drew you to Daniel.
Yeah, he definitely is my better half. And that timidness and humbleness was very precious, actually. It's that deep treasure of soul when you can be vulnerable, when you can be yourself. It's so pure. It's so pure and real that that's very touching. But yeah, you know, one thing is seeing, and Daniel says he saw me in cafeteria first. I think I saw him first in church. When I saw him, of course you can't not see those red curly hair, right, that everybody wants to touch and everybody admires. But Daniel, we were assigned to different churches, all students of Wildwood, and we were assigned to the same church, to St. Elmo Seventh-day Adventist Church with Pastor Steve Cook as a pastor there. So Daniel, in a Sabbath mornings, he drove around to all the dormitories and picked up people and drove us all to St. Elmo Church. And then I remember how Daniel stood in front and talked about God. And that deep commitment, that faith and trust and simple reliance on God, and it was so deep. His character was the one that touched my heart and touched me deeply to see how maybe different he is from me.
Right.
How God sometimes brings very different people together. And I always thought, no, I need to have the same person like me so that there is no problems, no misunderstandings, and so that we just speak the same and everything. And I think God showed me how we need that variety and how we need those differences. So I think I have a lot to learn from my husband, and I admire my husband in a lot of ways, and I love his music play and his musical abilities and talents and gifts. I love his guitar play. I don't have that gift, so music always gets to woman's heart as well. So I appreciate that God has given him also a talent of music and guitar play.
Right. So you guys met, but it wasn't easy. You were from Latvia. There were some immigration issues you were talking to me about during the break. And we talk about the strength that came from two different people being together. How did that relationship carry you through what actually turned into some years of dealing with immigration issues and uncertainty of the future? What did that look like?
Well, it was a faith-strengthening, experience because there's a lot of uncertainty involved. What if like the immigration never goes through, and then I gotta, move to Latvia, and it's kind of hard, for a person like me to, have a livelihood in a country like Latvia. So I was worrying a lot, but I just needed to trust God because He took care of everything,
Amen.
Even especially all the way through. Leva got her citizenship like a year ago or so, and that was such a blessing because finally, we're done with all of these paperworks and interviews and trying to prove that we're actually married. And God saw us through.
And how long have you been married?
6.5 years.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how long did the immigration issues take? And you were in Wildwood. When did you have to go back to Latvia?
So I went back to Latvia in 2014,
Okay.
I think on 13th of June. And it was because they were missing one signature in my paperwork and I needed to leave country immediately. So I think there was that 7-day grace period. So I left and I was 11 months in Latvia. And my case, I think if I'm not mistaken, was delayed 3 times because of different requirements and finally approved after those 11 months. And so we had a long distance relationship at 11 months.
Right.
And Daniel's dorm where he was living, all those guys thought, who is playing and singing at 4 o'clock in the morning? And it was, of course, my Daniel
He
who
was
woke
serenading
up
you at 4 in the
because
morning.
it's a 10-hour difference.
Right.
So we are living in future in Latvia, so it's 10 hours ahead there, and,
Right.
and for him to be early at his work in farm, vegetable farm and everything, he needed to wake up, and so yeah, Daniel's commitment and God's will was done.
That's right. And so that carried you through. And then at some point, so you got married in 2016.
15.
At what, 15?
15.
All right, thank you. At what point, again, you had stepped away from school, you weren't sure where God was calling you to be. when did you know? At what point did you, you're now a pastor. What did that look like?
Yeah, so when I went to school to study theology, I was really insecure. Actually, I felt a strong feeling that God had called me to go and study that, but I really didn't know what was next. I thought, I don't know if I can, get a job. I don't know if I can convince anyone that that I really am a fit for this, but I feel this is where God's calling me. So yeah, I had a lot of fear and doubt, like, how in the world can I do this? Like, I guess I just, really felt like if I can't even, like, if I have trouble talking to my classmates and making conversation, how am I going to be a pastor? This is just like ridiculous. This is insane. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. But, I just needed to trust God because, yeah, He saw me through, and I was able to graduate about 6 months ago, and that was such a blessing. I finally finished, and then came here, and things are going good so far by God's grace. I'm not a super extroverted, flamboyant person who's just dancing around and the life of a party or whatever. But God's using me in little ways and to be a blessing, I hope.
So at what point, you talked about the faith and the trust, but we all have these self-doubts. At what point were you able to break through that? Was that you two working together and praying together? I'm always curious, because how many times in our lives do we stop because I just can't do that? But you persevered and you followed God's leading. Where did that come from? When did you know that this is what God wants me to do?
Well, I think we kind of knew when I got the job to come here, in a way, because it's like a concrete thing. Okay, we're going here, and that was terrifying in itself. But so that even that, I have a lot of insecurities. I should trust God more. But yeah, for me, I'm just the type of person who questions everything, and so it's like I never really know for sure. But what I do know is that God's with me, and that I need to follow Him one step at a time. I mean, there's no turning back. That doesn't make any sense. That's not a good solution. So one step at a time, one day at a time, just asking God what He wants me to do.
That's right.
And even when it seems crazy, just trying to trust Him.
Is it getting easier? As you continue to live in His will, is it getting easier? You talk about being introverted. And oddly enough, I'm a pretty introverted person as well. It takes me time to recover sometimes from social experiences. It's just not easy for me. Is it getting easier for you when you have to initiate those phone calls or go visit somebody?
Yeah, it's getting easier, and I guess I wasn't sure, who I was going to encounter. I hadn't been down this far in Oregon except when I was a little kid, but people around here have been so nice, and so it's just been a pleasure, getting to know people and realizing they're not monsters out to get me. They're just people that I get to, have friendships with and interact with and encourage spiritually and talk about the Word of God together.
It is such a blessing to just be in His will. It doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable, but just to know, for me personally, I love the feeling that it's not about me, because it can't be, because I can't do this, but He can. What has the experience been for you here? Are you working outside the home?
I was working in physical therapy as a physical therapy aide. But I stopped working a little bit more than a month ago for personal reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are so happy that you are here in this community. And is there anything, I want to give you the opportunity, is there anything you'd like to encourage other people or share with other people from your journey or about this community?
Well, yeah, from my journey, I've had a lot of fears and insecurities in my life, and God's always taken me through, but I didn't really believe it beforehand so many times, and so now I'm trying to believe that God's going to see me through, no matter what. He always takes care of things. And so we need to trust Him and relax in Him and rest in His plan, because we really don't have to figure out our own lives, He's got it planned out. We just have to follow Him step by step. And also, I wanted to invite anybody who's watching or listening, if you're in the area or you live in the area, to come to the Grants Pass Seventh-day Adventist Church on 9th Street, or the Cave Junction Seventh-day Adventist Church in Cave Junction, Oregon, or wherever you are. Visit your local Seventh-day Adventist church and get more connected with the family of God and with the fellowship of the saints.
Amen. And you talk about how God has a plan and we can rest in that. I am so thankful, coming from my experiences, that God has no problem adjusting His plans. Because, boy, I make the wrong decisions all too often. And God is so good, and He takes wherever we are and He makes that new plan to bring us back to Him and to allow us to honor and serve Him. So thank you so much. Thank you for your willingness to step out into things that are uncomfortable, to live the life that He has planned for you. And I'm just, again, so thankful to have you here in Southern Oregon with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And folks, I just want to encourage you, this is something we all need to hear. God has a plan for each of us. We don't know what it is, but we can be secure knowing that we're following Him. So God bless you as you follow His plan for you today. We'll see you next time.